this is all about memberships and specifically what successful memberships do differently. And for those of you who have been around me for a while, certainly Paul, you've probably seen me have various communities in various platforms. In fact, before you and I engaged, I even had a community in Kajabi. So I've been sort of like running communities now, whether that's communities in Facebook groups or Kajabi or with inside high level. I've even tried school out as well. So I've run communities now for probably about 4 years. So I've sort of seen it all. I've seen what works well, what doesn't work well. I'm a member of some other really good paid communities. So again, picking up some of the tips from what they're doing. So I wanted to put this together to really look at the strategy of what works and what successful memberships do well and do differently, but it's probably stuff that's behind the scenes. You wouldn't normally get to see this stuff because it's the strategy of how they've put it together. But you're going to need to know this if you're going to be looking at putting a strategy in place for having your own community. So we'll jump straight in with why this matters now. And it's probably more important than ever because memberships are bloody well everywhere at the moment, especially since Hormozi sort of like has really been pushing school. It's literally everybody, every man and the dog and woman and the cat is now rocking up a community, probably in school or, deciding that they're going to do it in a Facebook community. The thing is, very few of them work. Very few communities work. They either drop engagement or they don't convert people. And we'll go into the basics of what a community is for in a minute, and then you'll be able to sort of like qualify what I mean by they're not working. But for now, the key points are there's more communities than ever. So it's a very crowded space. So you really need to be doing the right thing. And that's what I'll help you be doing today, to understand the theory and the technique behind what it is you should be doing. Because there's so many communities and it's a crowded market, there's more churn than ever. There's more people creating communities and then just giving up, or creating a community, getting a few members, and then it's sitting dormant and nothing happening. And the other key thing I want you to think about at this stage is that a community that appears to be busy on the face of it does not necessarily mean it's working. Okay? And this is true in two ways. I don't know about you, but I've looked and been in many Facebook groups before now. And I've been in Facebook groups of a few thousand, tens of thousands. Okay, Facebook groups with tens of thousands of members. And you look in there and there's like maybe a post every 2 or 3 days. That is not a working community. However, if you looked at the numbers, you'd think, my God, that's got to be busy. There's like 45,000 people in that community, right? Or a community that has got, one person posting all the time, but hardly any likes, or a community that's got lots of likes, but not converting to the next stage of nurturing somebody. Again, that they are communities that are not working, and they might be working on the face of it, but behind the scenes, they are not delivering on their purpose. Because a community is for you guys, right? You build a community ultimately to bring people together, to share ideas, and ultimately to nurture and to build some proximity with them, in the hope that really you're either serving them for free, if that's what you want to do, or if you're thinking about it from a business perspective, from revenue, you want to convert some of those into paying clients. So if it's not doing those things for you, it's not a working community. So the key thing I want you to think about there is most memberships don't fail loudly. They seem to be working, but they just basically quietly lose relevance. They just fade out. So how do we make sure that things don't fade out? Well, first of all, we need to understand the difference between the visible and the invisible. So as I've just covered there, most people think that A community is working if there's content going into it, if there's engagement on the posts, if there's activity, whether that's the person who owns the community's posting and maybe some other people are posting in there. Or maybe you look at the number of people in the community, 45,000, and you think, my God, that's really working. None of that is an indicator of a community that's working. Those are outcomes, right? They're not causes. They're not delivering on the community's purpose. The stuff that actually makes communities work is the fact that it's built on structure. You've got access rules and different levels within inside the community where different types of value is delivered. You've got boundaries set up. Maybe there's certain things that are pay gated. There's certain things that you have to pay to play. There's certain things that are given for free. And it also, if it's working, it also means that it has value that's layered over time. And what I mean by that is, maybe you're a free member and you get a certain amount of value. There's certain things that are given to you. Then maybe you pay to upgrade to a paid version or a VIP tier. And then you've got a different layer of value that sits on top of that. So those are behind the scenes things that actually are a good measure of whether a community is working. Absolutely not those things. So it's not what people see, it's what it actually does and how it's built and how it's structured and whether it delivers on what it is that it's trying to deliver. So what most people see is rarely the visible stuff of what's actually making that community work really well. So what I also want you to think about as well is the structure of a community. Again, a lot of people will think that I will have a community as part of my delivery phase. And I did this myself many years ago. In fact, Paul, you had part of this when we first engaged. I had a program, a 12-week program, and when you signed up for the program, part of that delivery was you dropped into a community, and the community was available, and there were wins posts in there, and it was a community, but it was gated behind the fact that you had to actually buy the product from me. So it was part of the delivery phase. Well, a community isn't that. A successful community, and if you look at what other people are doing with communities, they're making sure that that community is available in various different levels and tiers, okay, across that whole buyer's journey. So having a free community where you can post into, a little bit like social media, where it builds awareness, where you then go deeper with trust, where you perhaps give some extra value away inside the community, and maybe some of it's paid, but it's not a membership. There's just certain parts that are paid where you're buying sort of, I guess, confidence. And you can also use it as a post delivery, as a retention tool. So it's not just a phased thing. A community can spread across that whole buyer's journey. So it isn't just a later stage thing. It can exist now. You can build a community now and in effect use it as your whole buyer's journey, your whole funnel system, the whole way that you attract people in, that you nurture them and you serve them some value and, make courses available to them free or paid, and then even get them then onto your higher paid products if you have those as well. It can become that whole ecosystem that is across that whole buyer's journey. So I want you to be thinking about communities in those terms. Next thing I want you to think about is the one audience, different depths. Now, again, I have done this in the past. I have had multiple communities. So I would have a free community where people could get access to it. And then I had a delivery community, which was for paid clients, which is great. But what if somebody needs to be in both communities? What if you've got a paid client that also was in the free community? Do you now have to start posting into two different places? Do you have to maintain two different places? When you collect their details, are you collecting their details from different sources and storing them in different places in CRMs? The whole thing just gets a little bit confusing if you try and run more than one community for the same niche or topic. So the best model is layered access. In other words, have a community platform that allows you to have a free level, and then you can control the access for certain gated or pay gated areas, whether that's channels or courses that are built into it. And then maybe you've also got a VIP layer as well. There's nothing wrong with having 3 layers in your community or even more. That's the best strategy to basically meet somebody where they're at on the buyer's journey and serve them up value to nurture them towards wanting greater proximity. They want to get closer to you, more time with you, and they're going to be much more likely then to pay to play or to pay for one of your other products. So the best strategy when you're building a community is to think about a single community with multiple levels of access and multiple price points, one of them being free, where you attract the same audience into the same space. And the thing that varies, apart from the cost at the different levels, is how much detail you go into at those different levels. So it's, in other words, the value that you serve up is even more valuable when you start getting into the paid areas. So if you think about BizTech School, I have these monthly sessions are available in my free community. However, the weekly sessions, you have to be in the paid community to access the weekly sessions. So I'm happy to share strategy, which is valuable in its own right. But if you want that build along and you want that full weekly accountability and that full depth of exactly how you build things step by step, well, that's something that's layered at a paid level. So I'm increasing the depth that I go into in a single community with multiple tiers. And that really is the way to play it. What most people will do is build new audiences and try and, I guess, put them into different communities based on the level that they're at. So you don't want to build new audiences for different communities. You want to attack the same niche, the same audience, the same ideal client profile, and bear in mind that they are at different stages on their buyer's journey. Some are ready to buy now, some need a bit more nurturing, some are a bit skeptical and perhaps need to try something before they buy. Bear in mind, all of those people can be hosted in the same space. You just need to serve them the right value that takes them then to the next step. So let's take a look at free communities done properly. So free does not mean you give them absolutely everything you possibly can for free. And equally, although some marketeers will tell you differently, I also don't believe you should just tell people what they need to do without telling them how. I'm actually a firm believer, and I think you should tell people how to do things. If you build that level of trust and give them something that's valuable and tangible, then they're going to naturally want more proximity from you anyway. Whereas a lot of people will say, just tell them what they need to know, but don't tell them actually how to fix it. So communities doesn't mean you give them everything, though. Again, if you go back to that previous slide where I talked about the level of detail. So yes, tell them what they need, how to fix it, and here's a few tips. But you might not share worksheets with them. You might not share a custom GPT with them because that's the sort of thing that you would do in a paid container. But you can still tell them how to fix the problem. So free communities really are for bringing people together, therefore taking, I guess, the general public or where you've cast your net out to your niche, your target audience, and the people that have sort of expressed an interest, then you're wanting to bring them closer to you so that you can start serving them some value, you can start nurturing them, and you can start really getting to know them, allowing them to get to know you, give them some more proximity. And it's providing value as well. And ideally, you want to be providing value in a free community that they can't necessarily get anywhere else. So if you think about your social posting, let's say you're social posting on Facebook, Yes, you can post some of the same stuff in your community, but you also want to post stuff in a free community and offer stuff in a free community that is not available on your social posts. You know, there needs to be a certain level of exclusivity, even in a free community. Okay. And the sort of content that you're going to be putting in there is orientation and momentum content. So in other words, it's the tips to get them started. It's the things to move them from where they are now to the very next step. Not to completely solve all their problems, but to at least solve one or two things to start building momentum so that then naturally the next thing they're going to need is the next level from you or some more one-to-one advice from you in order to get to ultimately where they want to be. Excuse me. Free communities are definitely not for offering deep one-to-one support, and they are not just a mirror of something you do elsewhere. So in other words, don't just create a community and post the same stuff on Facebook that you post into your community. And oddly enough, that's what most people do with Facebook communities. Okay, they'll create a Facebook group that they're going to use to nurture their audience, and they will post exactly the same things in that they post on their profile. That's not going to work as a strategy. That's not building resonance with people. That's not building additional proximity. That's not serving any more value than they could get just by looking at your posts in their feed. A community is about giving more value and trying to build conversations between you and somebody else and between other members in that community. So bear in mind, that's what it's there for. Paid communities. Paid communities are all about depth, continuity, and retention. So it depends at what stage on the buyer's journey you're using the paid community. Obviously, you're not going to use it to nurture for them to purchase something from you, but you can use it as the first base, if you like, where they've bought something from you and then you want to try and upsell them to something more. Mainly it's for continuity and mainly it's for retention. So within the communities, it's common to unlock things like priority support, some form of structured learning, whether that's live sessions that you run, whether that's a course that you've got pre-recorded that they have access to. You know, you want to have regular live touch points. If they're paying to be in a paid community, they deserve to be able to hear and see from you on Zoom calls. Okay, not just lives where it's one way and you're telling a story or you're giving them some value. They need to be able to interact with you. They deserve to be able to interact with you. Because if they can do that, then you're going to start building some deeper understanding of them. They're going to understand you more, and you're going to start getting into conversations. And conversations is where it's at from a conversion perspective. So paid communities done right is about support, structured learning, proximity to you by live, you know, get on live calls with them, get on things like this. You know, I could have done a webinar and just done it as a Facebook Live, but then how am I going to do a Q&A? I'm going to do a Q&A via what? The chat? Ugh, that's nasty. That doesn't work, does it? Okay, so get on calls with people. Bear in mind as well that even if you have free, paid, VIP levels in your community, you still need to police the boundaries. You still need to be very clear in your strategy. What are they going to get at each level? What am I prepared to deliver at each level? And initially, when you first start looking at communities, you start convincing yourself, right, well, I'll do a weekly live, and maybe every month I'll do another live, or I'll do a live Q&A, or I'll do an Ask Me Anything session. You need to think about the fact that that is your time. Yes, it's great to be offering that value, but what price would you put on your time? If you offer too much in a free community, no one's ever going to want to pay for that proximity in a paid community. So it needs to feel exclusive. There needs to be things inside your community, whether that's paid or free, that they can't get elsewhere. but you also need to be able to offer things that can't be purchased separately as well. So it's fine to have upsells in your community, but also have things that they can't get anywhere else. Build some exclusivity into the different levels that you've got. So things like, bundles that they can't get anywhere else, discounts that they can't get anywhere else. So even in your paid levels, what is it that they can get at those different paid levels that they cannot access through any other method? Because if you can build that exclusivity that's linked to a particular level, then you will build appetite for that particular level. And provided you've built up enough trust, if they've perhaps been in your ecosystem for a while and got to know, like, trust you, whether that's through a free community or a low price paid community, they're naturally going to want to move closer towards you to get that one-to-one help or that extra bundle or discount that they qualify for in the higher paid community values. I now want you to think about the differences between things like Facebook as a platform for a community versus communities in a proper community platform. So a community is not just an area for people to chat and for you to serve value. Yes, those things go on in that area, but it's not just that. It's an entire system. Okay, so the choice you make as to where you create your community and host your community is of massive importance. You need to be able to own it and manage it and decide the features that are in it. You need to have full control of it so that people can't take it away from you. You need to own the data. If you're collecting people's details when they join, whether that's their Facebook profile or their email address or their name, you want to have that data. That's yours. You deserve that data, not a social platform. And you also need to think about scalability. How can you automate some of the onboarding into the community? How can you automate some of the upsell? So it's not a chat room. A community is an entire system. So where your community lives determines how much leverage you have. So why would you not build a community on Facebook? A lot of people do. A lot of people start off on Facebook, but why would you not? Why is it not a good idea? So it's not a good idea because reach is not something you control. So it's risky. If you think about it, it's risky as a business system, right? If you think about it in terms of it's a system, it's a way that you attract, nurture, and convert clients, and you're building that on a social platform that change the rules all the time and change the algorithm and don't even, give you notice if they're going to all of a sudden decide to get rid of your account. I mean, I've known countless people who've lost access to their profile. They've been basically put in, Facebook prison, or they've lost their group. Their group's been shut down because of a post that somebody put in there. So with Facebook in a group, if you're running a community, you don't have any influence really on the reach. You don't really control the access. The algorithms decide visibility. And not only that, you've got no native way of controlling the membership control, any form of payments for any sort of upgrades to different levels. You can't put courses inside a Facebook group and you can't do automations. And well, I say you can't do automations. You can do an automatic welcome new members, but that's about as far as it gets within a Facebook group. So there's so many reasons why you wouldn't rely up on Facebook as the right platform for a community. It's fine for a little chat room. It's fine for bringing people together. But if you've got any form of business strategy around offering them different levels of value, going deep, taking payments from people, subscriptions, converting them, it's just not the right platform. So the key things that I see a lot of people complaining about with their Facebook groups, and these are things that I learned too late, and these are things that most people learn too late, engagement in Facebook groups drops. Bear in mind, the Meta or Facebook algorithm looks at your most recent posts and that affects how much reach it gives you to the newest post that you post. So if you think about your Facebook groups, which are quite often private, you close them off so that members only can see those posts. So you've already gated off the audience. And then if nobody responds to that post, what effect do you think that's going to have on the next post that you post in the community? And then that gets no reach. That gets no likes, no engagement. What do you think what's going to happen to the next post and the next post and the next post? You're actually starting to destroy your own reach within your Facebook group by getting no interaction and no engagement. So your engagement drops, posts get missed because, again, the Facebook algorithm much prefers Facebook profile posts than it does Facebook group posts because profile posts get people to stay on the system longer than groups do. And not only that, there's just no connection to some of the key other business systems that you're going to need. You know, if somebody joins your Facebook group, you've then got to what? Manually store their details in your CRM or store their details in a spreadsheet. And do you even know what their email address is? Well, no, it's not really a very good way of building an email list, right? Unless you ask questions that says, if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter, please type your email address in as part of the joining questions in a group, which is sort of like an old strategy, but it's not a very reliable one. So it's not tied to a CRM. You've got no behavioral triggers, as in if they visit this, then trigger something that sends them something else, which you have in some decent platforms. And you've got no control over billing. Absolutely no control over billing in a Facebook community. So a Facebook group just is not the place to be. It really is not the place to be. So why are GHL communities different? So why would you consider something like High Level as being your chosen platform? And you can replace High Level with something like School. School is nearly as good as High Level, but it's certainly a worlds apart from using a social platform. So why would you pick a system like that? So you'd pick a system like that because its access is tied to contact records in a CRM, and you can tag contact records as they're created inside a CRM, and you can take payments. So those three things alone mean that you can start gathering details to add people to an email list. You can then start nurturing them with email marketing outside of the community if you so wish to do so. You can use tags to differentiate and segment the audience, which again you can't do with social media. And you can take payments. So if you wanted to put a paid product in front of them and take payment, well, you've got everything integrated within High Level to do that. You can't do that with Facebook. You'd have to send them to a funnel, or send them to a payment page, or send them to an online store. So they're tied to contacts, tags, payments, and the community itself in something like GHL or School is connected, integrated entirely with courses, events, automations, and pipelines. All of those things are built into the whole community module. It's not just a community and then you have courses sat over here. Within inside your community, you can publish the courses that you've got, so it becomes its own ecosystem. You can run events inside your community. So yes, you could have separate events running on Zoom, but you can also publish them in your community. So it becomes this whole little beast that controls everything you're going to need to serve up proximity to people who are members and value through things like courses. And not only that, when you start scaling and getting a lot of people in your community, you can automate a hell of a lot of the operational side of sending them information, giving them access to certain things, enrolling them onto certain stuff, sending them things like automated community newsletters. You know, these are all things you're going to need a system to do, not just a platform, a social media platform to do. Next topic is free community does not mean free everything. So you may go with a free community and you may think, my God, I'll give them everything I possibly can in the hope that they know, like, and trust me. I mean, yes, that is a strategy, but I wouldn't. You know, you can have a free community, but you can still layer the content inside the community so that you can have a level of free, paid, and whatever other tiers you want within the community. So you don't need to have a paid community. You can have a free community, but you can lock access to certain areas, which is super, super powerful. Because if you just want to run a free community, you can do. And if you just want to then put some free courses inside that community and a single paid course, and then a couple of channels that they have to pay to get access to, like VIP channels, you can do that. You can still have a free community. It just has certain pay points that people need to pay to get access to stuff. So you can absolutely do that. So you can have courses. If you're going to have courses inside of a free community, ideally they need to be reasonably basic orientation, foundations type courses. If you're going to put paid courses in there, you need to go a little bit deeper. Okay, you need to be telling them the steps, the how to solve that particular problem, or how do you implement that, or specialist topics. So free stuff is fine. Paid courses need to serve up more value. But again, they can both be inside a free community or a paid community. Power of replay vaults. So let's say that you've got a community and you're thinking, well, I haven't got a course yet, Carl. I want to create a course, but I've not got one yet. And I haven't really got the time to create a course. This is where replay vaults become very, very, very powerful. So if you think about all of the live sessions that I run on a Tuesday, I've got session replays that I've recorded going back to 2024. If you look in the VIP replay vault section of the community, you will see stuff going back to 2024. In effect, that's a course. Yes, they might be live sessions, but they're recorded material that have got walkthroughs and click by click, step by step stuff. Some of it's strategy. Okay, that in effect is a course. It's searchable, and it's something that, yes, you might give as a bonus to your paid community, but you could also wrap that up, productize that, and make that available as a paid item inside a free community, which is exactly what I do. And I'll show you what that looks like shortly. So replay vaults are super powerful. Think about live sessions. Live sessions are probably, if you're running a lot of live sessions in a community, it probably needs to be a paid community. You only do minimal live sessions in a free community. So your live sessions themselves could be for VIPs only, for people who are in paid communities. But that doesn't mean that your replays can't be then sold as a recurring membership fee to free community members if they want to. You can also do channels with controlled access. So channels are almost like the conversations, if you like, the sort of little chats down the side. And again, you can get super clever with having channels that are completely open. So if you had a free community, you could put open channels in there. And if you had a free community, you could also put locked channels in there, paid only channels. So they have to hit a certain membership sort of like posting volume or certain number of points, or they have to pay a certain amount to unlock it, or it's a recurring thing that's part of a package that you sell to them. You can slice and dice it up however you want, but ultimately, to have controlled access to certain parts of the community is key. You're controlling how that works. So why does this break the Facebook model? Why does this therefore massively outshine? Well, it's all to do with the fact that, again, Facebook really is just about conversations. It's putting material out there that will start a conversation. Having a community on a proper community platform is about creating an experience, creating a customer journey. One group. is still sort of like one experience within Facebook. Everyone's treated the same. They get access to the group. They might get asked some questions, but once they're in the group, they see all the posts, they get access to everything. Completely different when you've got something like a Go High Level based community. Yes, you still bring everybody in through a single login, you still bring people into one environment, but based on what level that they're at, they get many experiences. So you manage and maintain one thing for multiple levels of customer experience, wherever they are on their buyer's journey, whether they're free, paid, VIP, or sitting behind a program container that gives them access to a community. So it's massively different. So, what makes an engaged community? And again, this goes back to something at the start where I was basically saying just because it looks busy doesn't mean it is, doesn't mean that that community is working well. It's an indication that people are engaging with posts, but it doesn't mean it's an indication that people are upgrading, buying the VIP products on the back end of it, signing up for, paid one-to-one time. It's not an indication of that at all. Engaging communities have got rhythm, they've got clear expectations, but the key thing is they've got a reason to return. And what I mean by that is, so my free community, the reason to come back is that there's quite an in-depth free course in there, Business Foundations, and there's the ability to attend these monthly strategy sessions. That's the reason why somebody would want to be in there. Yes, they get basic tech advice with some of the posts, but the compelling reason to come back is the detail that's in there that they can get at their particular level. The reason to come back if you're in the paid is the additional information that you're going to get. The fact you can now turn up to live sessions, the fact that if you miss a live session, you've got access to the replay vault. Those are the reasons to return back to the community. And that's what creates engagement. And that's what creates then conversions. And you can apply that to a free, paid, or a VIP community. It's always the same. You're looking for rhythm, clear expectations of what they're going to get when they get there, and a key reason for them to return to that community. You cannot apply that same model to a Facebook group. So again, bear that in mind. So what does all this look like in reality? So ignore Go Velocity just for now. Just concentrate on the fact that in essence there's two levels. There's multiple levels, but let's just pretend there's two. There's a free option and then there's a paid option. So straight away you can see that there's certain things that you're going to be getting in this free option, but the paid option is going to give you everything that's in free plus access to a few more bits and pieces. Again, one of them being the replay vault. It's important that replay vault's there. One of them is the growth roadmap, which is the weekly sessions, whereas this here is just going to be the monthly session. So already you can see there's different levels. I'm looking at different levels. And when you get into the community, again, it's a single community and it flows through and gives you the different access depending on the level that you're at. So I'm logged in as a VIP, a paid member at the moment. So when I come in, I can see these channels here that have got locks on them. They're just telling me that they're locked down, so free people can't even see them. Okay, when I go into my learning, you'll see that I've got access to a couple of sort of course type modules. So I've got my replay vault. Now it's got an open button because it's been unlocked for me because I am a VIP. Now, if I was logging in on the free level, then that would say purchase, not open, and it would cost. I could have access to the replay vault if I absolutely wanted as an upsell for just £19 a month. And then when I'm in there, I get to see all of the replays of the live lab sessions, which is hugely valuable. And again, as they're getting recorded week on week on week, it's almost like building up a little technical course that anybody could go back and search. If I wanted to search up at the top for things that mentioned contacts or smart lists, then this is a searchable course that people can look through. So again, massively, massively valuable to have a vault. and to offer your vault to your free members as a paid option. This Business Foundations is a free course and it's free to everybody, whether you're a free member or a paid member. If we go into events, again, I've got certain things that are gated off depending on who you're logged in as. I am a paid member at the moment. So when I go into the events calendar, I get to see the monthly calls, I get to see the monthly guest expert calls, and I get to see the weekly calls. If I was logged in as a free member, the only thing I would see would be this red call here, the monthly group strategy call, because these calls here, the weekly calls where we're looking at the roadmap step by step, and the monthly guest, they are for VIP members only. They are for paid clients only. So although I can see them at the moment, if I was to log in as one of the free members, they wouldn't even see those orange and purple ones in the calendar at all. They would only see the red ones. So again, it's a great way of bringing people into a community with a single community where ultimately, if I post something at this level here, and I said, hey everyone, and I actually posted that, because this is going into the community and it's going into a channel that's accessible by free and paid people, everybody's going to see it. If I was to go into the VIP workshops or the replay vault and post something into one of these security controlled areas where only VIPs, only the paid members can see, and if I post something in there, only those people with that level of access can see it. So it becomes a really good way of running a single sort of ecosystem with different controlled layers and offering up different upsells to people, even down to, if we look at the homepage again, I'm upselling here as well. Everybody who's in the community has got the option to click one of these links, which takes them out to the purchase funnel if they want to upgrade. If they're on free, they can upgrade to either of those two options. If you're on mission, you can upgrade to Velocity. Click the link, takes you out to the community, and then straight to that purchase page where it will then automatically update your membership level. So there's all sorts going on in this single community. There's all sorts being upsold, presented to people for free, posts that are there offering value, which are all sorts of things that you're going to struggle to do unless you're doing it within a dedicated community platform. And there's a few that are good, as I say, high level's good. The Kajabi community, to be fair, is not bad. Things like Circle are pretty good. School is particularly good. But what you need to bear in mind is you want something that links back into your full CRM, links into your products so that when people upgrade and purchase, it's all in the one system in an ideal world. So that's what it looks like in reality. So really, again, the key thing is, what I've just shown you is not a demo. It's not something that I've thrown together. That is my live BizTech School community, and you guys will recognize it, and then you'll recognize some posts in it, and you'll recognize some features in it. That is a live working community. So today's been really talking about strategy. It's been talking about what it looks like to have a full community set up, the things you need to consider, the multi-tier levels, the platform you're selecting. It's not about creating perfect structures, and it's certainly not about telling you step by step how to actually build the community. It's just giving you the theory behind it. It's giving you those correct mental pictures of what it should look like and how it should map out. It's giving you a little bit more clarity on the pros and cons of using certain platforms versus using something like a Facebook group, which is what most people will do. And it's giving you a little bit of strategic direction, because clarity comes before construction. A community is a big thing because it covers that whole buyer's journey. It's not just something that you decide one day, right, I'm going to build a community, and you create a little banner for it, and then you do that, and then you start inviting people to it. There's got to be a strategy behind it. There's got to be a purpose behind it. There's got to be upsells in there. You've got to consider the value, the types of people that you're going to be drawing them in, and what you're going to do for them when they're there. So what are we doing in the next 4 weeks in BizTech School? Well, we are doing the building bit. So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be looking at for each one of you guys, it's going to be a build along sort of session. We're going to be looking at designing the access layers or talking about what it is that you need to pick the right access layers. So I've got 3 different access layers. You might only need 2. You might only need 1. Okay, so it's about picking and helping you decide what those access layers are. We're going to sort of build those communities. You're going to build them in your own time, but during the sort of the live session time, I'm going to be taking you through some of the screens click by click and helping you understand what needs to go in those screens, what graphics you need, what settings you need to select in order to start setting up the community so it works for you. Then when you've got that sort of like that boilerplate thing set up, what we're then going to be looking at doing is how do you expose courses, vaults, and secure channels. And the key thing is we're going to be doing it together. Okay, so if you turn up to those live sessions starting tomorrow, okay, so for the next 4 Tuesday sessions, we're going to be looking at building out. So by the end of those 4 weeks, you should have a community that's ready, that's live, that's configured, that's based on strategy, not just a wing and a prayer and just an idea that you had on a Sunday afternoon. You know, it's based on things that work with different multi-level tiers. So for anybody who's not already a member, if you want to be part of that, if you want to build along with us for the next 4 weeks and join others doing this so that you can design your community structure the right way, so that you can understand how to have a different layered membership with free, paid VIP access. If you want to know how to add the courses, the vaults, the locked channels, if you need all of that in place and want to get all of that in place, plus a dedicated high level environment to build it in, all built in, then you're going to want to scan the QR code because starting tomorrow is when we're going on this mission. We're embarking on this mission to start building your community that's going to work for you to not only generate leads, but to nurture and convert and to then retain them once they're customers. That is what we're going to be doing for the next 4 weeks.